The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the cold darkness between star systems. It was bigger than any city on Earth, with tall metal towers that reached out like fingers into space. Lights blinked along its surface, and ships from dozens of different worlds moved in and out of its docking bays like busy insects. Inside the main council chamber, hundreds of alien beings sat in rows of seats that curved around a central platform. The room was huge, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Each alien looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur. Some were tall and thin, others were short and wide. But they all had one thing in common today. They were all looking down at the small group of humans standing on the platform below. Captain Taimin stood straight and tall in his dark blue uniform. The gold buttons on his jacket caught the light from above. Next to him, Ambassador Jiwoo held a datapad with Earth's information on it. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat style, and her face showed no emotion even though hundreds of alien eyes were staring at them. The leader of the council was a creature called Admiral Kethmore. He belonged to a race called the Vorthak. His skin was gray and bumpy like old leather, and his eyes were bright red. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "So," Admiral Kethmore said, looking down at the humans, "these are the creatures from the planet called Earth. They want to join our Galactic Council." He paused and looked around the room. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. "Tell us, little humans, what can your species offer to our great alliance?" Ambassador Jiwoo stepped forward. She pressed a button on her datapad, and a hologram appeared in the air above her head. It showed Earth floating in space, blue and green and beautiful. "Earth has a population of 8 billion humans," she said in a clear voice. "We have developed nuclear technology, space travel, and we have explored our entire solar system. We have built colonies on our moon and on Mars. We believe we can contribute to the peace and prosperity of the galaxy." The hologram changed to show human cities with tall buildings reaching toward the sky. Then it showed human ships flying through space carrying supplies between Earth and its colonies. Admiral Kethmore made a sound like he was choking, but Taimin realized he was laughing. "Nuclear technology?" the alien said. "How primitive. Counselor Vexithara, please share with our guests what real technology looks like." A new alien stood up from her seat. She was tall and thin with purple skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Her name was Vexithara, and she belonged to a race called the Zilari. When she moved, she looked like she was dancing even though she was just walking. "Of course, Admiral," Vexithara said. Her voice was smooth like silk. She waved her hand, and the air above the platform filled with new holograms. These showed massive ships that were longer than human cities. They had smooth, curved surfaces that glowed with energy. "This is a Zilari battlecruiser," she said. "It is powered by controlled black holes. Its weapons can destroy a planet's surface in minutes. Its shields can stop any attack. We have thousands of these ships." The hologram changed again. Now it showed weapons firing beams of pure energy that could cut through mountains like they were made of paper. "And this," said another alien from across the room, "is a Morkan world breaker." This alien looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and compound eyes. "One shot from this weapon can crack a planet in half." More aliens began to speak up, each one showing off their advanced technology. They had ships that could travel faster, then light weapons that could destroy entire solar systems, and shields that could protect them from anything. Captain Taimin watched all of this without showing any emotion on his face. Ambassador Jiwoo stood next to him, also calm and quiet. The aliens seemed to be waiting for the humans to look scared or impressed, but the two humans just watched and listened. Admiral Kethmore stood up from his chair. He was even bigger than Taimin had thought, almost 3 meters tall and very wide. When he walked down the steps toward the platform, each footstep made a loud sound that echoed through the chamber. "Now," he said, stopping right in front of the humans, "show us your weapons. Show us your mighty human military that thinks it can stand with us." Ambassador Jiwoo pressed another button on her datapad. The hologram changed to show human warships. They looked small and simple compared to the alien vessels. The ships were gray and had hard edges instead of smooth curves. They looked like they were made of basic metal and plastic. Our largest battleship is the Soul's Pride, Jiwoo said. It is 500 meters long and carries nuclear missiles, railguns that fire metal projectiles and defensive systems. The chamber erupted in laughter. The sound was awful. Hundreds of different alien voices all laughing at the same time. Some aliens made high-pitched squeaking sounds. Others made deep rumbling noises. Admiral Kethmore's laugh was the loudest of all. Nuclear missiles? He said between laughs. Railguns? These are toys. Children's toys. He turned to address the other council members. Did you hear that? They shoot pieces of metal at their enemies. Counselor Vexithara shook her head sadly. How disappointing. We had hoped Earth might offer something interesting. But this... She gestured at the hologram of human ships. This is technology from the Stone Age. Another alien, one that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard, called out from his seat. My pet could build better weapons than these. The laughter continued for several minutes. Captain Taemin and Ambassador Jiwoo stood quietly through all of it. Their faces showed no anger or embarrassment. They just waited. Finally, Admiral Kethmore raised one of his massive hands, and the chamber became quiet again. Clearly, he said, humanity is not ready to join civilized society. Your technology is hundreds of years behind ours. Your weapons are pathetic. Your ships are barely capable of leaving your own solar system. He paused and looked directly into Captain Taemin's eyes. However, we are not completely without mercy. The alien leader walked back up the steps to his chair and sat down. We will give Earth a choice. You have 72 hours to surrender your entire planet to our protection. We will rule you as we see fit, and in time, perhaps your species will learn to be useful servants. Counselor Vexithara nodded in agreement. It is more kindness than your primitive species deserves, she said. Accept our generous offer and your people will live. Refuse and we will demonstrate what real weapons can do to your little blue planet. More aliens began to speak, all agreeing with the ultimatum. They talked about how easy it would be to destroy Earth cities, how quickly they could wipe out human civilization. They spoke about humans like they were talking about insects. Your strongest ship would not last 5 seconds against our weakest patrol vessel, said the bear lizard alien. We have seen your technology. We are not impressed. Admiral Kethmore stood up again. The choice is simple, humans. Surrender now and live as our servants. Refuse and die. You have 72 hours to decide. He gestured toward the exit. You may leave now. Use your time wisely. Captain Taemin finally spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. His voice was calm and steady. We understand your position, he said. We will need to consult with our military advisors before giving you an answer. Several aliens laughed again at this. Military advisors? Said one. What could your primitive military possibly advise you to do against us? Taemin looked up at Admiral Kethmore. The alien was at least twice his size and probably 10 times stronger, but the human captain showed no fear. Some of our advisors have experience with older weapon systems, he said. We want to make sure we explore all our options before making such an important decision. Counselor Vexithara made a dismissive gesture with her hand. Older weapons? Even more primitive than what you have shown us? This becomes more amusing by the moment. Perhaps, Taemin said simply. We will have our answer for you within 72 hours. Ambassador Jiwoo gathered up her datapad and bowed politely to the council. Thank you for your time, she said. We will be in touch soon. As the two humans walked toward the exit, the aliens continued to laugh and make jokes behind them. Taemin heard one alien say, I wonder if they will try to fight us with sticks and stones. Another replied, At least sticks and stones might leave a mark on our armor. The laughter followed them all the way to the door. When it finally closed, behind them, the corridor outside was quiet and empty. Ambassador Jiwoo looked at Captain Taemin. Do you think they bought it? She asked quietly. Taemin nodded. They think we are exactly what we appear to be, primitive, weak, and helpless. He touched a small device on his collar. "Command, this is Captain Taman. Mission accomplished. They have taken the bait completely." A voice came back through the device, scratchy and distant. "Understood, Captain. How long do we have?" 72 hours before they expect our surrender," Taman replied. "They are planning to make an example of us to show the rest of the galaxy what happens to species that refuse their generous offer of slavery." "Perfect," the voice said. "That gives us enough time to wake the old ones. Admiral Sung Ho sends his regards, by the way. He says to tell you that the Indomitable is almost ready to fly again." Ambassador Jiwoo smiled for the first time since arriving at the Saint. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something that had been sleeping for 300 years began to wake up. Hidden inside a hollow asteroid the size of a small moon, ancient systems started to hum with power. Lights that had been dark for centuries began to glow. Computer systems that had been shut down since before most humans were born started running their startup sequences. The asteroid looked normal from the outside. It tumbled slowly through space like thousands of others covered in gray rock and ice. But inside it was not rock at all. Inside was a ship, the largest ship humanity had ever built. Its name was the UES Indomitable, and it had been sleeping here since the end of the resource wars. Admiral Sung Ho felt the vibration in the deck plates under his feet as the massive fusion reactors came online. He was 89 years old now, with gray hair and lines on his face that told the story of a long life. His hands were not as steady as they used to be, but his mind was still sharp. He had commanded this ship during the worst fighting humanity had ever seen, when humans fought. Humans for the last scraps of Earth's resources. "Reactor 4 is online, Admiral," called out Commander Hyojin from her station. She was 75 years old and had been his tactical officer during the wars. Her hair was white now, but her eyes were still bright and alert. "All primary systems are responding normally." The bridge of the Indomitable was huge, bigger than the entire command center of a modern Earth warship. It had been designed when humanity thought they would need to fight wars that lasted for decades, maybe centuries. Every system had backup systems, and those backup systems had backup systems of their own. Captain Wu Jin sat at the weapons console, his fingers moving over controls he had not touched in 300 years. He was the youngest of the old crew at 71, but he looked older than his years. The wars had been hard on all of them. "Weapon systems are coming online," he reported. "Main batteries will be ready in 6 hours. Special weapons will need 12 hours for full initialization." Chief Engineer So Young's voice came through the speakers from deep in the ship's engine room. She was 78 and had refused to come to the bridge, saying she needed to be with her machines. "Admiral, I'm reading some problems with the antimatter containment fields. They have been offline for too long. I need at least 18 hours to make sure they are stable." Admiral Sung Ho nodded. They had time. The aliens had given Earth 72 hours, and it would take them time to gather their fleets and travel to Earth's solar system. "Take all the time you need, So Young. I want those systems perfect when we need them." Standing near the back of the bridge, Lieutenant Dong Hyun watched everything with wide eyes. He was 25 years old and had never seen anything like this ship. He had been sent from Earth Command to serve as a liaison between the old crew and the modern military, but he felt completely out of place. The Indomitable was from a different age. Everything about it was huge and overbuilt. The corridor walls were thick enough to stop the most powerful weapons humans had ever made. The ship's armor was measured in meters, not centimeters. And the weapons, Lieutenant Dong Hyun had read about the weapons in classified files, but seeing them in person was different. The main gun batteries were each the size of office buildings. The missile bays could hold enough firepower to level continents. And somewhere deep in the ship were the special weapons that were so terrible that even the files about them were classified above his security level. "Lieutenant, Admiral Sung Ho," called out. "Come here, please." Dong Hyun walked over to the Admiral's chair. Up close he could see that the old man's uniform was different from modern ones. It was darker, with extra armor built into the fabric. And the rank insignia were different too. They came from a time when humanity's military was built for total war. "Sir?" Dong Hyun said. "Tell me, the Admiral said quietly. What do you know about the resource wars? Dong-hyun thought for a moment. They were fought between 2157 and 2162. Different nations and corporations fought for control of Earth's remaining natural resources. The wars ended when the United Earth Government was formed, and the remaining resources were placed under international control. Admiral Sung-ho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. That is what they teach in schools now, yes. Very clean and simple. He looked around the bridge at his old crew. The truth was messier, much messier. The Admiral stood up from his chair and walked to the main view screen. Outside, they could see the hollow asteroid's internal structure. There were dozens of other ships hidden here, smaller than the Indomitable, but still huge by modern standards. The resource wars were not fought by nations, Admiral Sung-ho said. They were fought by corporations that had more power than most governments. And they were not fought just on Earth. They were fought all through the solar system. On Mars, in the asteroid belt, around Jupiter's moons. Commander Hyejin looked up from her console. Show him the museum, Admiral. Show him what we were really fighting. Admiral Sung-ho nodded and pressed some buttons on a control panel. The view screen changed to show images from the resource wars. Dong-hyun saw cities on Earth burning from orbit. He saw space stations blown apart by weapons that turned metal into plasma. He saw the ruins of human colonies on Mars empty and dead. We did not just fight each other, the Admiral continued. We tried to destroy each other completely. The weapons we built were designed to make sure that if we could not have something, nobody could have it. The images on the screen changed again. Now they showed the weapons that the old ships carried. Dong-hyun saw missiles that could drill through a planet's crust and explode in the core. He saw beam weapons that could boil oceans. He saw kinetic weapons that fired projectiles at such high speeds that they could punch holes through entire moons. This ship, Admiral Sung-ho said, patting the arm of his chair, was built to fight other ships like itself. It was designed to survive weapons that could crack planets and to carry weapons that could do the same thing. Captain Woo-jin called out from his station. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from Earth Command. The aliens have begun mobilizing their fleets. Long-range sensors detect over 300 ships gathering at the edge of known space. 300, Admiral Sung-ho repeated thoughtfully. How many do we have? Commander Hyejin checked her tactical display. 51 ships in the hidden fleet are operational. Most are smaller than the Indomitable, but they all carry the old weapons. Another dozen ships are in Earth orbit disguised as civilian vessels. Lieutenant Dong-hyun could not help himself. Sir, that is only 63 ships against 300. How can we possibly win? The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Admiral Sung-ho began to laugh. It was a soft, dry sound, like old paper rustling. Commander Hyejin joined in, then Captain Woo-jin. Soon the entire old crew was laughing. Lieutenant, Admiral Sung-ho said when he could speak again, you are thinking like someone from the piece. You are thinking about numbers and odds and fair fights. He turned to look at the young officer. We are not from the peace. We are from the war, and in the war we learned that it does not matter how many enemies you face. What matters is how much damage you can do before they stop you. The ship's AI system suddenly came online with a loud chime. A woman's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional. Admiral Sung-ho, this is Aegis. All primary systems are now operational. It is good to hear your voice again, sir. Admiral Sung-ho smiled. It is good to hear yours too, Aegis. Status report on special weapons. Gravitational warfare systems are at 40% readiness and climbing, Aegis replied. Antimatter torpedo bays will be ready in 14 hours. Quantum entanglement mines are operational. Planet cracker mass drivers will be ready in 8 hours. Relativistic kill vehicles are ready for deployment. Lieutenant Dong-hyun felt cold suddenly. He had heard some of those weapon names in classified briefings, but others were completely unknown to him. Sir, what are relativistic kill vehicles? Captain Woo-jin looked up from his weapons console. Telephone poles made of tungsten, he said simply. We accelerate them to 90% of light speed and fire them at enemy ships. At that velocity, they have the kinetic energy of nuclear bombs, but there is no explosion. They just punch holes in things. And the quantum entanglement mines? Donghyun asked. Those are more complicated, Commander Hyejin said. When they explode, they create a field that makes matter forget how to hold together. Very useful against ships with regenerating armor. Admiral Sung-ho walked back to his chair and sat down. Lieutenant, you need to understand something about the ships we built during the resource wars. They were not designed to fight fair battles between honorable enemies. They were designed to make sure that wars ended quickly, because the alternative was the complete destruction of human civilization. The Admiral leaned forward in his chair. Every weapon on this ship, every system, every piece of armor, it was all built by people who knew that if they lost, everyone they loved would die. Not just killed in battle, but completely erased. Cities, countries, entire planets turned into lifeless rocks. Chief Engineer So Young's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, I have some good news. The antimatter containment systems are more stable than I thought. We can have full. The edge of Earth's solar system was normally empty and quiet. Today it was filled with alien warships. 12 massive vessels hung in the darkness like metal mountains, their hulls glowing with energy shields and weapon systems. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and bristled with enough firepower to destroy a city. The largest ship was called the World Render. It was Admiral Kethmore's flagship, a massive dreadnought that had never lost a battle. Its main gun was a beam weapon that could boil entire oceans, and its armor was made from metals that could withstand the heat of a star's core. When the Admiral looked out from his command bridge, he could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot that would soon be under his control. Status report, Admiral Kethmore commanded. His red eyes glowed with satisfaction as he looked at the human homeworld. All ships are in position, Admiral, replied his tactical officer, a thin alien with green skin and 4 arms. Our sensors detect no human military vessels approaching. Earth's orbital defenses are minimal, a few space stations and some patrol ships. Nothing that could threaten us. Admiral Kethmore made a sound like gravel grinding together, which was how his species laughed. Of course there are no human ships. They know they cannot fight us. They are probably preparing their surrender message right now. He had been looking forward to this moment ever since the humans had humiliated him at the Galactic Council. Their primitive technology and pathetic weapons had been an insult to every advanced species in the galaxy. Now he would show them what real military power looked like. Sir, said the communications officer, we are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Put it through, Admiral Kethmore said. Let us hear their surrender. But instead of a surrender, the screen showed a human military officer standing on what looked like the bridge of a ship. The man was old, with gray hair and a lined face, but his eyes were sharp and alert. He wore a dark uniform that looked different from the ones the human diplomats had worn. This is Admiral Sung-ho of the United Earth ship Indomitable, the human said in a calm voice. You have entered our solar system without permission and with hostile intent. You have 30 minutes to leave. This is your only warning. The alien. Bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Admiral Kethmore began to laugh so hard that his massive body shook. The other aliens on the bridge joined in, filling the air with strange sounds of alien amusement. Did you hear that? Admiral Kethmore said between laughs. The humans are giving us a warning. One old man in one old ship is threatening the entire Vorthak battle fleet. The tactical officer checked his sensors again. Sir, I am reading one human vessel approaching our position. It appears to be very old, possibly centuries old based on its design. It is not very impressive. On the screen, the ship called Indomitable looked like a metal brick floating through space. It had none of the smooth curves and glowing energy fields that marked advanced alien technology. Its hull was gray and covered with weapon mounts that looked crude and simple. Compared to the elegant alien ships, it looked like a piece of space junk. How big is it? Admiral Kethmore asked. About 1,500 meters long, sir. Much smaller than our ships. And its weapons appear to be kinetic, projectiles and primitive missiles. No energy shields that we can detect. Admiral Kethmore looked back at the screen where the human admiral waited patiently for a response. "You have made a serious mistake, human," he said. "You think one ancient ship can stand against the might of the galactic fleet? Your vessel would not last 5 seconds against the World Render's main gun." Admiral Sung Ho's expression did not change. "I have given you 30 minutes to leave our system. You now have 29 minutes and 40 seconds. You dare to threaten me?" Admiral Kethmore roared. "I will show you the difference between real military technology and your primitive toys." He turned to his weapons officer. "Charge the main beam cannon. Target the human ship. I want to vaporize it completely." The World Render's main weapon began to power up. Deep in the ship's core, massive energy generators came online. The weapon was designed to punch through planetary shields and reduce cities to ash. It had never failed to destroy its target. "Main gun charged and ready, Admiral," the weapons officer reported. "Target locked on the human vessel. Fire!" Admiral Kethmore commanded. The World Render's main beam cannon unleashed a torrent of pure energy that lit up the darkness of space like a second sun. The beam was 5 meters wide and contained enough power to melt mountains. It struck the human ship directly in the center, and absolutely nothing happened. The energy beam hit the Indomitable's hull and simply stopped. The ship's armor absorbed the beam like it was made of light from a flashlight. There was no explosion, no damage, no effect at all. The human ship continued moving toward the alien fleet as if nothing had happened. "What?" Admiral Kethmore stared at his screen in disbelief. "That is impossible. Nothing can withstand the main cannon." His tactical officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Sir, the human ship is still intact. No damage detected. I do not understand how their armor could absorb that much energy." On the screen, Admiral Sung Ho looked calm and completely unsurprised. "You have 28 minutes, he said simply. Admiral Kethmore felt something he had not experienced in decades, fear, but he pushed it aside and turned to his fleet commander. "All ships open fire. Destroy that human vessel with everything we have." 11 more alien warships opened fire at once. Energy beams, plasma cannons, and exotic particle weapons all struck the human ship. The space around the Indomitable lit up like a star as enough firepower to destroy a small moon hammered into its hull. When the light faded, the human ship was still there, still undamaged, still moving toward them. "This is impossible," whispered the tactical officer. "Our weapons should have turned that ship into vapor. How is it still intact?" Admiral Sung Ho's voice came through the speakers again. 27 minutes. I suggest you use your time wisely." Admiral Kethmore was becoming desperate. "Launch all fighters. Ram that ship if you have to. It cannot be invulnerable." Hundreds of small alien fighter craft poured out of the larger ships like angry insects. They swarmed toward the Indomitable, firing their weapons and preparing to crash into it if necessary. But as they got closer, the human ship's defensive systems came online. Small turrets all over its hull began to track the approaching fighters. When they opened fire, the alien pilots discovered something terrifying. The human point defense weapons were just as impossible as their armor. The turrets fired streams of metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Each bullet was tiny, but they moved so fast that when they hit an alien fighter, the small craft simply disintegrated. In less than 60 seconds, all 300 fighters had been destroyed. "Status report!" Admiral Kethmore shouted. "All fighters destroyed, sir," his tactical officer replied in a shaky voice. "The human defensive systems are beyond our understanding." Admiral Sung Ho appeared on the screen again. 25 minutes, he said. Then he leaned forward slightly. "Admiral Kethmore, I know you are listening. You made a mistake when you threatened my people. You assumed that because our current technology looks primitive to you, we are weak. You were wrong." He paused for a moment, his old eyes hard as steel. "Let me explain something to you. 300 years ago, my people fought a war that nearly destroyed our entire species. We built weapons so terrible that we scared ourselves into making peace. When that peace came, we hid those weapons away and hoped we would never need them again." The human admiral stood up from his chair. "You have forced us to remember things we tried to forget. For that, I am going to give you a demonstration of what human weapons can really do. Admiral Kethmore felt ice in his veins. All ships retreat to maximum weapons range. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The Indomitable's main gun fired. It was not an energy beam or a plasma bolt. It was a single projectile, a rod of tungsten metal about the size of a telephone pole. But it had been accelerated by magnetic coils that ran the entire length of the ship. When it left the barrel, it was moving at 90% of the speed of light. At that velocity, the projectile had the kinetic energy of a small nuclear bomb. But unlike a nuclear bomb, all of that energy was focused into a space no bigger than a dinner plate. The rod hit the World Render's energy shields and passed through them like they were not there. Energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons and plasma bolts. They could not stop simple matter moving at relativistic speeds. The projectile punched through 6 kilometers of alien super armor like it was paper. It passed completely through the massive ship and out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole that you could drive a truck through. For a moment, the World Render hung in space, seemingly undamaged except for the hole. Then the massive ship broke in half as structural supports that had been severed by the projectile gave way. Secondary explosions ripped through both halves as atmosphere vented into space and fusion reactors overloaded. The most powerful ship in the Vorthak fleet died in less than 10 seconds. The remaining 11 alien ships stared in horror at the burning wreckage of their flagship. Admiral Kethmore was dead, along with his entire crew of 5,000 aliens. The ship that had never lost a battle had been. News traveled fast in the galactic community. Within hours of the World Render's destruction, every major species in the galaxy knew that something impossible had happened. A human ship had destroyed 2 Vorthak warships using weapons that defied all known military theory. On the Zilari homeworld, Counselor Vexithara stood before a massive holographic display showing the battle footage that the surviving ships had transmitted. Her purple skin had turned pale as she watched the human projectile punch through the World Render's shields and armor, like they were made of paper. "How is this possible?" she whispered to her military advisors. "Our scientists confirmed that human weapons are primitive. Nuclear missiles, kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives. Nothing that should threaten our advanced ships." General Kethvar, a massive creature covered in scales and spines, stepped forward. His species had conquered 12 worlds using bioships that could regenerate from any damage. "The projectile velocity was impossible," he growled. No. Technology can accelerate matter to such speeds." Vexithara turned to her science advisor, a small alien with large eyes and 6 arms. "Telnoth, explain this to me. How did the humans do this?" Telnoth manipulated the holographic display with his many hands, zooming in on the moment of impact. "Counselor, the human ship appears to use magnetic acceleration, essentially a very large railgun. But to achieve these velocities, the power requirements would be enormous. Their entire ship would need to be a weapon." "Exactly," said another alien from across the room. This was Admiral Zethmos of the Morkan fleet, an insect-like creature with compound eyes. "And if one human ship is actually a disguised weapon platform, how many others are there? We need to strike immediately before they can deploy their full military." Vexithara nodded slowly. "Send the message. The combined galactic fleet will mobilize immediately. Every species, every ship, every weapon we have. This human threat must be eliminated before it can spread." Within 6 hours, the largest military force in galactic history began to assemble. Ships arrived from 17 different species, each bringing their most advanced technology and their most experienced crews. The Vorthak brought their remaining dreadnoughts, massive ships designed to crack planet surfaces. The Zilari contributed their stealth destroyers, ships that could become invisible and strike without warning. The Morkan bioships were perhaps the most feared vessels in the fleet. These ships were not built, they were grown. Made from living tissue and bone, they could repair any damage in minutes and adapt to any weapon used against them. Some were shaped like giant squids, others like enormous spiders. All of them were hungry for battle. The Kethvar brought their boarding ships, designed to capture enemy vessels intact. The Thexani contributed their planet killers, weapons designed to crack worlds in half. Even the peaceful Melkari sent their defensive ships, fearing that if humanity was not stopped, the entire galaxy would be at risk. Admiral Kethmore's brother, Admiral Vorthgak, took command of the fleet from the bridge of the new Vorthak flagship, Galactic Destroyer. Unlike his dead brother, Vorthgak was known for being careful and methodical. He studied the battle footage over and over, trying to understand how one human ship had destroyed two of the galaxy's most powerful vessels. "Status report," he demanded as ships continued to arrive at the rally point. 317 ships now in formation, Admiral, reported his tactical officer. Representatives from all major species are present. Total crew, over 2 million beings, Vorthgak nodded grimly. And the humans? Long-range sensors detect minimal activity in their system. The ship called Indomitable appears to be alone, orbiting their planet. No other military vessels detected. That cannot be right, Vorthgak said. One ship cannot hold off this entire fleet, no matter how advanced its weapons. They must be hiding something. He opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. Attention all vessels. We are about to face an enemy that uses weapons we do not understand. They have already proven they can destroy our most powerful ships. I want maximum alertness, maximum caution, and maximum firepower. The massive fleet began moving toward Earth's solar system. It was a sight that would have terrified any other species in the galaxy. Hundreds of ships stretching across thousands of kilometers of space, each one capable of destroying cities or cracking moons. Back in Earth's solar system, Commander Hye-jin watched the approaching fleet on her sensors. She sat in the tactical center of the Indomitable, surrounded by displays showing the positions of every ship in the alien armada. "Admiral," she called out to Sung-ho, who was reviewing battle plans at his command station. "Long-range sensors are detecting the alien fleet. Confirmed count, 317 ships. Estimated time to arrival, 6 hours. Admiral." Sung-ho looked up from his plans. "And our ships?" "All hidden fleet vessels are in position throughout the system. The disguised civilian ships are maintaining their covers until the last moment. Luna Base is ready to reveal itself on your command." Lieutenant Dong-hyun, who was beginning to understand the scope of humanity's deception, asked the question that had been bothering him. "Admiral, how did we manage to hide so many military ships? The aliens had spies watching Earth for months before they made their ultimatum." Admiral Sung-ho smiled. "Because we learned something important during the resource wars, Lieutenant. The best way to hide a weapon is to make it look like something harmless." He gestured to the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. "The mining ship Prosperity's Dream working in the asteroid belt? Actually, the heavy cruiser Soul's Vengeance with mining equipment welded to its hull. The research vessel Deep Space Explorer studying Jupiter's moons? That is the battleship Humanity's Edge with science equipment mounted on top of its weapon systems." Commander Hye-jin continued the explanation. "The cargo freighter New Hope has been delivering supplies between Earth and Mars for 50 years. Everyone knows it. What they do not know is that its cargo bays can be ejected in 30 seconds to reveal a full missile cruiser underneath. Even our space stations are not what they appear," added Captain Wu Jin from the weapons station. "The orbital research platform studying solar radiation is actually a fortress with enough firepower to destroy anything that gets within weapons range." Lieutenant Dong-hyun stared at the tactical display with new understanding. "How many of our civilian vessels are actually military ships?" "About 60%, Admiral Sung-ho replied. "We learned during the wars that deception is just as important as firepower. The aliens looked at our obvious military forces and assumed that was everything we had. They never thought to look deeper." An alarm sounded on the bridge. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They are demanding our immediate surrender." "Put it through," Admiral Sung-ho ordered. The main screen lit up with the image of Admiral Vorthgak standing on his command bridge. Behind him, dozens of alien officers worked at various stations. The Vorthak admiral looked even larger and more intimidating than his dead brother. "I am Admiral Vorthgak of the Combined Galactic Fleet," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice. "You destroyed my brother and his ships using treacherous weapons. For this crime, Your entire species will pay." Admiral Sung Ho stood up from his chair and faced the screen. "Admiral Vorthgak, I am sorry for the loss of your brother. However, he was warned to leave our system and chose to attack instead. I gave him every chance to avoid bloodshed." "Lies," Vorthgak roared. "You fired without provocation. You used weapons that violate every civilized convention of warfare." "We used the weapons we had," Admiral Sung Ho replied calmly. "Just as you used the weapons you had. The only difference is that our weapons were more effective." Vorthgak leaned forward on the screen. "You think your one ship can stand against my entire fleet? I have 317 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. I have bioships that can regenerate from any damage, stealth, ships that can strike without warning, and planet killers that can crack worlds." Admiral Sung Ho nodded thoughtfully. "Impressive. However, you are making the same mistake your brother made. You assume that what you can see is all there is." "What do you mean?" Vorthgak demanded. Admiral Sung Ho smiled. "I mean that you are not facing one ship, Admiral. You are facing the human defense fleet." He turned to Commander He Jin. "Signal all ships. Drop the masquerade." Throughout the solar system, humanity's deception came to an end. The mining ship Prosperity's Dream jettisoned its mining equipment, revealing the sleek hull of a heavy cruiser underneath. The research vessel Deep Space Explorer dropped its false outer shell like a snake shedding skin, exposing weapon systems that gleamed in the starlight. On Earth's moon, what had appeared to be a simple research base suddenly opened like a flower. The surface split apart in 6 sections, revealing that Luna Base was actually a massive shipyard. Inside the hollow moon, dozens of warships waited in hidden berths. Captain Kyung-soo of the UES Defiance led the first wave of ships out of Luna Base. His vessel was smaller than the Indomitable but carried the same impossible weapons. Behind him came Captain Yoon-ji of the UES Retribution, Captain Jae-sung of the UES Vengeance, and ship after ship of humanity's hidden fleet. The cargo, freighter Nu. The Battle of Sol began at exactly 1432 Earth Standard Time, when the alien fleet crossed the orbit of Pluto. Admiral Vorthgak had arranged his 317 ships in a massive wedge formation, with the heaviest vessels at the front and the faster ships on the flanks. It was a formation that had conquered 12 worlds and destroyed countless enemy fleets. Admiral Sung Ho watched the approaching armada from the bridge of the Indomitable. His 63 ships were spread throughout the solar system, some hiding in asteroid fields, others using the gravity of planets to mask their signatures, and a few positioned openly as if daring the aliens to attack them. "All ships report ready for battle," Commander Hye-jin announced from her tactical station. "Weapons charged, special systems online." Admiral Sung Ho nodded. "Very well. Signal the fleet. Execute Plan Omega." The battle began not with the massive energy beams and plasma cannons the aliens expected, but with something much simpler and infinitely more deadly. The human ships fired their kinetic weapons, not the massive planet crackers that the Indomitable carried, but smaller versions that could be fired rapidly. Captain Kyung-soo of the UES Defiance opened fire first. His ship launched a stream of tungsten rods, each one accelerated to 70% of light speed. The projectiles were smaller than the ones that had destroyed the World Render, but there were dozens of them. The lead alien ships tried to defend themselves with their energy, shields and point defense systems. The shields might as well have been made of paper. The point defense lasers that could stop missiles and plasma bolts could not track projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. 12 alien ships died in the first 10 seconds of battle. They did not explode dramatically like in the entertainment videos. They simply developed holes in their hulls where the kinetic projectiles passed through, then broke apart as their structure failed. Atmosphere vented into space in white clouds and secondary explosions rippled along their hulls as systems overloaded. Impossible. Admiral Vorthgak stared at his tactical display as ship after ship disappeared from his sensors. All ships. Evasive maneuvers, random patterns. Do not let them target you. But the alien ships had been designed for fighting enemies that used energy weapons and missiles. Their evasive patterns were meant to avoid beam weapons that traveled at light speed, not kinetic projectiles that could be aimed precisely. The human ships had sophisticated targeting computers that could predict where a ship would be, even if it was trying to dodge. Captain Yoonji of the UES Retribution demonstrated this when she targeted a Zilari stealth destroyer that was trying to become invisible. The alien ship flickered and disappeared from most sensors, but the Retribution's computers tracked it by its gravitational signature. A single tungsten rod punched through the invisible ship's hull, and it reappeared as a cloud of expanding debris. "Deploy the bioships," Admiral Vorthgak ordered desperately. "Their regeneration abilities will protect them." The Morkan bioships moved forward, enormous living vessels that looked like giant squids or spiders swimming through space. Their hulls were not made of metal, but of specially grown bone and cartilage that could heal from almost any damage. Energy weapons that could melt steel barely scratched their surfaces. But kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds were not energy weapons. When Captain Jae-sung of the UES Vengeance fired at the bioship Devourer, the tungsten rod did not burn or melt the living hull. It simply punched a hole clean through it, moving so fast that the bioship's healing abilities could not even begin to respond. The Devourer writhed in space like a wounded animal, green blood spraying from the perfectly round hole in its side. It tried to regenerate, but there was nothing to regenerate from. The kinetic weapon had completely destroyed several kilometers of living tissue. Within minutes, 6 more bioships suffered the same fate. The aliens' most feared vessels, ships, that had been thought invulnerable to conventional weapons, were being destroyed as easily as any other ship. "All ships, focus fire on the human flagship," Admiral Vorthgak commanded. "If we can destroy their command ship, the rest may surrender." Every alien ship that could bring weapons to bear opened fire on the Indomitable. Hundreds of energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic particle weapons struck the ancient human vessel. The space around it became brighter than a star as enough firepower to level continents hammered into its hull. When the light faded, the Indomitable was still there, still undamaged. Still moving toward the alien fleet with mechanical precision. Lieutenant Dong Hyun, watching from the bridge, finally understood why the old ships had been hidden away. "Sir," he said to Admiral Sung-ho, "our armor is not just resistant to energy. Weapons. It was designed to stop the same kinetic weapons we are using against them." Admiral Sung-ho nodded. "During the resource wars, both sides developed these weapons. Both sides had to develop armor that could stop them. Our ships are protected against our own weapons because we had to be." He turned to Captain Woo Jin at the weapons station. "Deploy the special weapons. Show them what the Indomitable was really built to do." Captain Woo Jin's fingers moved over controls that had not been used in 300 years. "Gravity wave generator online," he reported. "Quantum entanglement mines ready for deployment. Antimatter torpedoes loaded." "Fire," Admiral Sung-ho ordered simply. The Indomitable fired its gravity wave generator, a weapon that created localized distortions in space-time itself. A group of 20 alien ships suddenly found themselves trapped in a time loop, repeating the same 5 seconds over and over again. Their crews aged and died while their ships remained frozen in time, unable to move or fire their weapons. The quantum entanglement mines were even more horrifying. When they exploded near a group of alien vessels, they created fields that made matter forget how to hold together at the subatomic level. The affected ships simply came apart atom by atom, their hulls dissolving into clouds of individual particles. The antimatter torpedoes were the most conventional of the special weapons, but no less deadly. Each one carried enough antimatter to destroy a city. When they struck alien ships, matter and antimatter annihilated each other in bursts of pure energy that outshone stars. Admiral Vorthgak watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons that defied every principle of civilized warfare. "What kind of monsters are these humans?" he whispered. His science officer, one of the few crew members still functioning in the face of such destruction, checked his instruments with shaking hands. "Admiral, the human weapons appear to be designed to counter every known form of defense. Energy shields, regenerating armor, stealth systems, even our quantum phase shifters. Nothing works against them." "How is that possible?" Vorthgak demanded. "Sir, I believe these weapons were designed by a species that fought itself. They had to create weapons that could defeat their own defenses because they were fighting enemies who used the same technology they did. The realization hit Admiral Vorthgak like a physical blow. The humans had not developed these weapons to fight aliens. They had developed them to fight each other. Every system, every weapon, every piece of armor had been designed to counter human technology because humans had been killing humans with human weapons. All ships retreat, he ordered. Full speed. Get us out of this system. But retreat was not so simple. Admiral Sung Ho had positioned his ships throughout the solar system specifically to prevent the aliens from escaping easily. As the alien fleet tried to flee, they found human ships waiting for them at every turn. Captain Mincio of the Soul's Vengeance blocked the route toward the Galactic Rim. Captain Doyon of the Pusan Defender covered the path toward the spiral arm. Every escape route was guarded by ships carrying weapons that could destroy anything the aliens could build. The battle became a running fight that stretched across the entire solar system. Human ships used the gravity wells of planets as weapons, slingshotting kinetic projectiles around gas giants to strike alien vessels from unexpected angles. They hid in asteroid fields and emerged to fire point-blank volleys before disappearing. Again. The aliens tried every trick they knew. They used their fastest ships to try to break through the human lines. They attempted to overwhelm single human vessels with concentrated fire. They even tried ramming attacks with their heaviest ships. Nothing worked. The human ships moved like they were part of a single organism, coordinating their attacks with precision that spoke of decades of experience fighting together. When one ship was threatened, others moved to support it. When an opportunity presented itself, the entire fleet moved to exploit it. The turning point came when Admiral Vorthgak made a desperate decision. Deploy the planet killer, he ordered. Target the human homeworld directly. If we cannot win this battle, we will at least complete our mission. The Thexani planet killer was a massive weapon designed to crack worlds in half. It required 10 minutes to charge and could not be moved while firing, but its beam could penetrate to a planet's core and cause the entire world to explode. The massive alien ship moved toward Earth, its crew frantically working to prepare the ultimate weapon. Admiral Vorthgak watched the countdown timer, praying that the humans would not realize what was happening until it was too late. But Admiral Sung Ho had been expecting this.